the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. This is Business Rockstars. Hey, welcome to Business Rockstars. I'm Alex Worley, joined by Brian Lee, co-founder of BAM Ventures, and obviously lots of companies, really well-known companies that you've had a hand in leading up to this. So if you could give us an overview of your entrepreneurial journey.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here.
I've been an entrepreneur for quite some time now. The first company I started was LegalZoom.com. Started that about 18 or 19 years ago now, with a couple co-founders, Brian Liu, Robert Shapiro, and Eddie Hartman. And then my second company is ShoeDazzle.com that I started with Kim Kardashian. My third company was The Honest Company that I started with Jessica Alba, Christopher Gavigan, and Sean Kane. And then my fourth company is Hollar that I helped start with a few friends of mine.
From the time you were a kid, you knew that you were meant to be an entrepreneur. Tell me about that.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs are born with an entrepreneurial kind of DNA, right? I think, I often meet folks who come to me and say, you know, I want to be an entrepreneur someday, right? They say, I just need 3 or 4 or 5 more years of experience. And I say that's the wrong approach. I say, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, do it today, right? You're already probably a day or 2 late. You should have started yesterday. And so for me, it's entrepreneurs don't wait. You go do, right? And that's, I think, the difference. So I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur at a very young age. When I was probably about 8 or 9 years old, I would actually go trick-or-treating since it was just Halloween. It reminds me of that story. I would go trick-or-treating, collect a bunch of candy, and then put them in the Ziploc bags and sell them at school the next day for 25 cents.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think I always knew I wanted to go into business.
You're always thinking like that.
Yeah.
So what about all of these recent college grads that want to be entrepreneurs right away, don't necessarily have any formal work experience left? Do you think that that's a smart idea to immediately jump into entrepreneurship?
Absolutely. Sometimes it's just better not to know.
And establish bad habits sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes it is. I'll give you an example of that one. When I started ShoeDazzle with Kim and my wife, we knew nothing about the shoe business, especially the women's shoe business. And so we had raised capital, we had ordered shoes, got the website going, had everything ready to go. And we went to a shoe show in Las Vegas called WSA. And we walked into this thing, and there were literally tens of thousands of shoe vendors. And I'm telling you, if I had seen that before we started, I think I would be too scared to start it, right? So sometimes, again, you just got to go and do it.
Because you can almost freak yourself out where you talk yourself out of it because there's a million excuses. Oh, these people have been at it for so much longer. But really, those are all just lies that we tell ourselves, right?
Yeah, and the more people you talk to also, the more answers of no you're going to get, right? So sometimes it's like if you just have to believe in it yourself. And be very passionate and enthusiastic, and just, as long as you know in your bones, like, this is going to work, then go do it.
Yeah, I love that you described yourself as passionate, because I think that is that secret sauce and tangible factor that can take you a really long way and can make up for a lack of experience.
Right.
So tell me about your philosophy on a 9-to-5. Do you think it's smart to have a regular, stable job while you're starting a business? And maybe you can speak from personal experience what you've done and how you've managed that, because in the beginning, you're not necessarily making a profit.
Right. So I would say, if at all possible, if you're going to go start a business, focus on that. Maybe give up your job if you've saved up enough money. When we started LegalZoom, we had really no money, and we had to dip into our savings. No one would give us any capital. But we believed in the idea. And so we worked out of my apartment, and we just kept building, and we launched it with really no capital. But I can't imagine ever starting LegalZoom while having a full-time job. I think that's really, really difficult to do. I think it would take a lot longer, too.
So if you can set yourself up, it might mean that you're working in a job so you can save, so you can eventually leave it. But
that's right.
Your advice is definitely focus on the business if you can.
It's true, because it's when you start your own company, it's all work. It's all work. It's no play, really. It's, you know, people often ask me about, how's your work-life balance when you start a company? There is no balance. There really isn't. It's like God, you know, it's like more power to you, truthfully, if you could have that work-life balance while you're starting a business. But most entrepreneurs I know that are truly successful, it's really all work. There's really no balance in it.
Yeah, well, I appreciate your honesty. You got to work hard. If there's anything to take away from this, it's that. So if you could go back in time to your early entrepreneur days, what advice would you give yourself?
I would tell myself, you know what? Spend more time on the hiring process and bring in the best people you can.
If you were to create a startup toolkit, what are a few things that would be inside of it? They could be, you know, real tangible, technology-based. It could be intangible, like a characteristic that every entrepreneur needs to have.
If I could have a toolkit, I would say I'd stick some sort of finance lessons in there, because that's something I just had to learn over time about how to raise capital, valuations, you know, preferences, and so forth. Liquidation preferences, and I would say finance as well as engineering, right? So software engineering, I would probably want to have something in there for that too.
All right. Have you ever hired friends or family?
I have. So like Eugene Kim, I've known him, he's been my close friend since I was 4 years old, and he's worked at every single one of my companies.
And obviously has worked out great. Yeah. So you would recommend it if it's the right person?
You know, I would, if that's a great point. As long as it's the right person, I would recommend working with friends. I worked with Brian Liu, who's my best friend that I started LegalZoom with. And for me, I've been lucky. It's worked, because you hear these horror stories, right? About, oh my gosh, I hired this friend and they didn't work out, and it gets really difficult to fire them because they're a friend.
Yeah.
And I've gone through that too. So sometimes you win, sometimes you lose.
Sure. So who would you say has been your biggest mentor throughout all of this?
Oh gosh, I'd probably say it's probably my dad. My dad was an entrepreneur as well, and so anytime I have business questions, I'll go to him first and ask him what his thoughts are. He's
the one that said the early bird gets the worm, right?
Yes, he did.
So does that mean that you wake up really early, or how does that translate to your life?
I've always I've always woken up early, and I've always kind of worked very hard.
So long days and not work-life balance until yesterday. So he's a hard worker. Okay, well, we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about building the business, so sit tight. This is Business Rockstars, and we'll be right back. Now, F-Logic.
Who are you? What are you about? What's your intention? Be clear, be consistent and disciplined, and go after it. In opening my salon, Eden By Eden Sassoon, my father was passing. And I knew that when he was gone, the legacy needed to be carried on through my eyes. And we opened, and it's 6 years later, and I wanted to start Beauty Gives Back, a nonprofit. And I've had that, and I've had it for 3 years, and I'm uniting the beauty industry through education. So everything that I say that I'm going to do and put out in the universe happens. No. I saw myself being married and being a mother and sort of being a housewife. No. And when it started when I came into that world of what an entrepreneur was to me, I had to get comfortable in that skin and that style of the way that I do business. It's my life. My life really applies to my businesses. My businesses are everything that I do, I pay forward to others. Do it again! Bigger, faster, harder. I know that all sounds awful, but just keep going. Jump. You get the team together. You come from the place of not coming from a place of fear and really coming from a place of, how am I gonna do this different? How am I gonna make it better? You all get together, and with the mastery of all of our minds, when my heart's open and in it, done. Change.
Welcome back to Business Rockstars. I'm Alex Worley, joined by Brian Lee, co-founder of BAM Ventures. So tell me a little bit more about BAM Ventures. First of all, what is it and where did the idea come from?
So BAM Ventures, we started about 3 years ago. It stands for Brian and Mira. Mira's my wife. And I have 2 partners there, Rich Jun and Shameen Rostami. And we invest in startups around the LA area. And so we've invested in probably about 70 or so startups in the area.
Let's talk about capital. You have experience on both ends of the spectrum where you've invested in businesses, but then also you've been invested in. So what is your advice to approaching securing funding?
It's always hard, especially if it's your first business. Like when we started LegalZoom, no one gave us capital. I mean, I borrowed money from my parents, my partner borrowed money from his parents, and I think we borrowed like $50,000 in total to start LegalZoom.com. And we probably hit up about 25 venture capital firms, and every single one said no. But yeah, so it's always hard. And so we had to get really scrappy with LegalZoom and just kind of start it and run it profitably from day one. And
was that a good choice? I mean, obviously it was a good choice, but did that maybe prove to be helpful that you had to be scrappy in the beginning?
I think that's always helpful. I think that's always helpful when you have to kind of make your own way. You have to kind of eat what you kill, right? So it was a good lesson for us to really understand, the bottom line, right, as you build your business.
So at what point do you think it's a good time to start looking for investors?
Well, if you can raise capital initially, then absolutely just raise some, right? Because then you'll have a little bit more leeway to invest into your company and take on some marketing and some hires and so forth. But if you don't need capital, don't take it. That's usually my general rule.
And you touched a little bit on what you're looking for as an investor. Right. Can you expand upon that so we can let our entrepreneurs watching and listening know, what they really need to have in place to be marketable to an investor?
I think they should have a very, very clear vision of what they're trying to build. And we love mission-based kind of businesses as well, right? So the mission is extremely important because that's the binding force of the company, the culture, the team, right, that they're going to build, because everyone has to be in unison and believe in what you're accomplishing together. And so that has to be very clear at the outset.
Yeah, we're seeing a rise in companies that are mission-driven, which is amazing. Some companies obviously live it out better than others. So what advice do you have to really live out your mission?
I think it's don't create a mission just for the sake of creating a mission, truthfully. Make sure that it really resonates with you and your co-founders. Something that you're very passionate about, something that, once you start doing, it doesn't even feel like work, right? So at every single one of my companies, I never felt like I was really working, even though I told you it's a lot of work, but it's really not, because it's fun, right? And you're doing something that you're proud of. And so that kind of takes away all the pain, really, of being an entrepreneur, because it is painful, but it takes a lot of that away if you really believe in what you're doing.
And you've had a lot of business partners over the years, including a couple A-list celebrities, Kim Kardashian, Jessica Alba. What are you looking for in a business partner when you decide whether or not you're going to work with them?
I'm looking for equal passion, truthfully. Someone who is very driven to make something successful and really give it their all. So whether it be a celebrity or a business partner or whatnot, you got to be in sync and you have to really understand each other's vision.
Cool. What would you say is, or what has been the biggest challenge so far?
It's basically when you're building a business and it becomes successful, there's so many ways you could take the company. You could go do this and that and this and that. But at the end of the day, you've got to kind of focus on what the core of the business is, as opposed to trying, 1,000 different things. I'm saying you should always try things, but if you start trying too much, then it's difficult.
Yeah,
so it's focusing on the core.
Sure, having options is definitely a blessing and a curse sometimes, but to your point, really knowing what is this business, what is the vision and the mission, and making sure you're making decisions accordingly.
That's correct.
What would you say has been your biggest success over your entire career?
Over my entire career? Wow,
yes, I know. That's a tough question because you've had so many of them.
I would say it's really just the people. You know, the people at each one of these companies. I'm very proud that they've developed as professionals and they're happy what they're doing, and you know, the culture is good. So.
Yeah, that's gotta be really cool. Okay, we're gonna end on a fun note. Not that this hasn't been fun, but we're just gonna take it up a level. And that is, if you weren't an entrepreneur, what role would you want? What position in the world would you have?
If I had the skill, I'd be an NBA player. I'm not tall
totally
and I'm not fast, but I'd love to play in the NBA. That'd be fun. Or I'd be a musician. I think I'd want to be more of a rap star.
So entertainment industry.
Yeah, hip hop, rap. I love it all.
That's so fun. Okay, well, Brian, thank you so much for stopping by and sharing all of your business insights. So much fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Alex.
You bet. We are Business Rockstars. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. After this short break, more Business Rockstars. You're watching Business Rockstars. Thanks so much for joining us. Now let's go to Mark Black.
Joining us right now is Ulyses Osuna, the founder and CEO of Influencer Press. Pleasure to have you on the show, brother.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Tell us about your company. What do you guys do?
So, Influencer Press is a PR firm, and we work mainly with influencers, and we get them on these major publications, so like Forbes, Inc., Entrepreneur, HuffPost, just stuff like that.
Very cool. So, is there a specific type of person that's the right fit?
Yeah, so the reason that it's called Influencer Press is because we work with influencers, and it's a lot easier to pitch.
What if somebody wants to be an influencer, though? Do you guys help them become that, or do you specifically work with
Yeah, we get that question all the time. Okay. Yes, we do. Like, that's the main reason of so for example, if we have an influencer, they're already an influencer, you know, we just get them on the publications. But if somebody wants to get, if they want to get their name out and stuff like that, that's exactly what PR does.
Interesting. So when somebody comes to you, the benefits you provide to them is obviously PR.
Yep.
But what are the end results? Do they make more money? They get their message out there, obviously. But I know that everyone who gets lots of views, gets lots of PR, doesn't always make money. So do you guys assist with that process?
No.
Just specifically the PR, they have to know how to monetize it?
Yes, because making a sale from that, it's difficult, and also you have to know what you're doing to make a sale. A bunch of things go into place when you're trying to make a sale. So we mainly do it for brand recognition. Most of our clients that do it, they just want their name in the lights, you know? They want to be I'm the guy. I've been on Forbes. So we don't ever guarantee anybody any views, any clicks, any sales, because we can't control that.
How'd you get into this space? What'd you do?
So the way to dominate the space is to be in the space. Yeah. So I was already
Of course,
writer.
right? Proof's in the pudding.
Yeah, I was already a writer, a contributor for business, HuffPo, Entrepreneur. Okay. And because of that, I was already aware of the other writers there.
Of course, so you had the relationships.
Exactly.
It only made sense
they were
to
already
turn a
built.
business into it.
Yeah, they were already built. And then somebody told me, I got on a call with Tim from Daily Dose, and he told me that I can make money off of it. So the very next day, I did cold email outreach, and I made $2,000. Nice. So I was dude, this, and it aligns with everything that I want to do. I want to become an influencer. I want to make a lot of money. I always my very first websites was reptheweb.com and improve your credibility. So I always wanted to build that authority figure online, and now I can do it for others.
So what did you do before that? I always love to know what led you into the influencer space. Obviously, I'm sure if you go back a little bit, online influencers that started to become more of a thing over the last 3 to 5 years. Right. So what were you doing before that led you into this space?
I
know you said you were writing, but before that.
Yeah, before that. So from the very the get-go, I was just researching online marketing. So I would help out for free. And the way I got to these influencers before we even did Influencer Press is I would help them out, and with that. Anybody will take you in if you help them out. But a lot of people, if you ask them, they'll be oh no, I don't need anything. But I never really ask. I just help them out.
Love the progression. Hardest part of getting started so far. I feel like so many people, they see, they're oh dude, he's on Business Rockstars now, or oh, he's got Influencer Press, he's working with all these big people. But I'm assuming it wasn't handed to you on a silver platter. I'm assuming you hustled, you grind to get to where you're at right now. So what's been the hardest part? Just so people out there that are getting started can realize you can achieve whatever you want, but you're going to have adversity. What's been some of yours?
For Influencer Press?
Yeah, just being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so the hard part is not doing the work. The hard part is what comes during. So for example, it's how to get what my clients want out there. So the hard part is not getting on the publications. That's like the easiest part ever.
Okay.
The hard part is working directly with the client, what they want, what they need, and what their expectations are. So I need to like manage the expectations and stuff like that.
Okay.
So by far, that's the hardest thing.
Well, you should model something that we do in our companies, and that's called a client expectation form.
Yeah.
And so before we engage with anybody, I don't care if you can write the check, because when you get to a place where you're like, I don't need the check.
Exactly.
I just do this because A, it does pay me, but B, I love it. It's not worth the headache if I get a client and the expectations are all out of alignment. So the way that we solve that is we send them a one-page client expectation form, which basically the one most important question is, what are your expectations for this engagement?
Right.
And if they think it's a magic pill, then you can either have that conversation and see if they can fix it, or you don't take the person as a client.
And you'll know, whenever I get on a call with them, if they're like rushed or if they're upset, like anything like that, I won't take the check. You know, like to me, it doesn't matter about the money. It matters what results I can get them, and like how are they going to act once I get them the results.
Yeah.
Because it's all about, for me, it's all about like the customer experience.
What's your best advice for the beginning entrepreneur? You were once a beginning entrepreneur, and you're in your early stages right now. It'll be super exciting to see where you are in 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years. But you are ahead of the race for those people that are just getting started. So for the person who's getting started, one piece of advice for them.
Don't try to learn everything. I feel like as entrepreneurs, we try to dip our hands into a bunch of different things. But once you start, like double down on the 80-20 rule, and then after you do that, just double down on it and pay the people that know how to like make you more money, and just pay them. Don't try to learn it, because you're wasting time. You might not even be good at it. And even if you do the work, it's still going to take, you know, goes back to the same thing, time.
Yeah. So invest your money, your time, and your energy in learning from the wisdom of people who've done it before you. Fantastic advice. I've done that. Many other people have done that. So I'm glad that we reiterated that. We'll be right back with Ulyses Osuna to dive into his company. This is Business Rockstars. I'm Mark Lack.
Women start more small businesses than men, but are less likely to reach big business status. Hey, it's Alex Worley, and this is your Empowerista Business Report. Women starting businesses is nothing new, but Forbes says only 2% of these women-owned businesses are considered big, meaning they have $1 million or more in annual revenue. So how can we grow the number of big businesses with female founders? First, we must address how to break these 5 barriers. Number 1, women often underestimate their own abilities. Number 2, women are less likely to receive the funding necessary to grow a big business. Number 3, women have a harder time building their business network. Number 4, women are more risk adverse. And number 5, subconscious sexism, which influences all of the barriers I just mentioned. The good news is we're heading in the right direction, and with more confidence, capital, and community, women are headed for equal influence in the business world and beyond. I'm Alex Worley, and this has been your Empowerista Business Report. This is Business Rockstars. Now back to Mark Lack.
Joining us right now is Ulyses Osuna. He's the founder and CEO of Influencer Press. Good to have you on the show with us, brother.
Thanks, man.
So break down for us your company.
Yeah, so
Remind us, what do you guys do?
Yeah, we help influencers get more media exposure, and on the major pubs, so Forbes, Inc., Entrepreneur, etc.
Yeah, awesome. And you were just sharing with me before the cameras delve on here that you guys do something a little bit different.
Yep.
Most PR companies take time, weeks, sometimes even months, before they actually deliver what the client invested in. You guys do it sometimes even within days.
Yes.
So break it down for us. How are you guys able to move so much quicker than other PR options?
We hustle. So like,
just
for
that
example,
easy.
yeah, we just hustle. So for example, like Ryan Stewman, he contacted me.
He's the sales guy.
Yeah, he's a sales guy, the hardcore closer. In the beginning, he didn't really think that I was like anything that I can get him on Forbes, right? Because he had 2 other people do it, and he fired them both. But
which is crazy because it's so easy. People don't understand.
Yeah, it honestly is. You just have to do a little research. But actually in PR, like Google is not your friend, because you'll go to the general submission and stuff like that. It's
people
the
paying
worst
for
way
ads
to do it.
just to be ranked.
Yeah. So for example, like in PR, there's like an underground, not underground like in the political world where it's like corrupt, but underground where you have to go to the contributors and not the general submission, like ideas at Forbes, contributors at Inc. And for example, those I sent pitches before, and they never get opened. Like I track my emails, so it's just like a general folder, because these publications get millions of page views each month. Tons of people want to become writers, tons of people want to get press, And that's like one of the worst ways you can go about it.
I want to know for you though, when somebody reaches out to ask, there's a certain way to do it.
Yep.
Not a lot of people know.
Yep.
Most people just, like we were kind of making fun of earlier, some people just kind of like put the information there, like
Right.
here's who I am, here's my bio.
Contact me, yeah.
Right? Ask
Yeah.
me to be on your platform. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that. How do you effectively, elegantly communicate for your clients, or recommend they do when they reach out, how to get on these publications?
So a lot of it has to do with who the person is. So for example, when I was pitching Gerard Adams to Grant Cardone,
Who
for
sold
Power
Elite
Players,
Daily for
right,
50 million.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. He already has a name, you know, like,
Yeah.
I can pitch other people, but they're not going to get accepted because they're not Gerard Adams.
Why were you pitching Gerard to Grant?
For, like,
JV
credibility.
or
No.
just?
It's literally just because I wanted some
To
like,
get him on
more
the
stuff
show?
on the under my belt. Because I've been trying to get like Gerard's like attention for like forever.
Yeah.
And that's one of the ways to do it.
Yeah. I told you, I was like, I'm hanging out with him on Saturday.
Right, exactly, yeah.
A very small world once you get in, right? But the best way to do it is sometimes, like, for example, maybe you're trying to get the pretty girl. Sometimes it's easier to have, instead of you spending all your energy trying to get her attention, just go and become friends with her best friend, and then her best friend will introduce you to her, and now it's like her guard's going to be down.
Yep. The same way when you're pitching. Always get an intro.
Always get an
Intros
intro.
are like super important.
So that's some great information. I mean, there's so many people out there that I feel like they want to be in Forbes. They
Yeah.
want to be in Inc. and Success Magazine, even if they don't even know how to leverage it.
Right.
How
right.
can you make sure that you can leverage it? Some of the ways we do it is boosted posts. You know, for example, my Forbes article comes
Yeah, I
out,
saw.
maybe 5,000 people will see it. I don't know. I have no idea. I ended up being the quote of the day when you go in Forbes and then you're the quote.
Yeah, I saw that too.
It's cool, but at the end of the day, the article will eventually die. It's online,
Yeah.
but I mean, you're not going to go on Forbes and see it. It's going to slowly
Right.
get pushed down, like on the Facebook news feed or social news feed. But if you take it and you post it on Facebook, target it to a specific interest group, in this case, probably people that like Forbes, then they're going to see it over and over and over again. You
Yep.
can put $1 on it, you can put $1 million on it, and then however many people you want to see it will be in proportion how much you're paying. But do you have other ways that you recommend people utilize, share, and get their content out there?
Yep. So for example, like what we do, what's something you could do instantly once you get
Yeah.
press, charge double. Why? Because you're already ahead of the game. You know, like if you got press
Yeah.
or if I got press for like PR, I'm already gonna charge double just because I'm known as like in a way as the guy for PR. So I'm gonna charge more. So that's what some of our clients do.
So once I get my Forbes article,
Yep.
increase my coaching or speaking
Yep.
fees or whatever it is?
Exactly.
Okay. Just because now I must be
Just
perceived
because
as-
just because you're awesome and you're
Yeah.
on Forbes.
I love it. I mean, I think at the end of the day, most people are not charging what they're worth.
Right.
Most people charge what they think. They go, oh, well, you know, if I was just making $200 an hour, that'd be so good because, you know, if I just had a job, I'd be making 20 or 30.
Yeah.
And they're scared to charge $1,000 an hour.
So yeah, you know, you brought up a great point. Like we charge 5,000 just for Forbes.
Yeah.
And if we go lower, like in the client's like head, they think, oh, we're not credible. You know, like
Yeah.
it's just that automatically like whatever the price is, they like you merge that with the person you're working with. So I can do the same thing as like somebody else, but if they charge way less, chances are they're going to go to me just because
Yeah.
they see me as credible.
We look at it as like the pyramid, generalist, specialist, expert /
Yeah.
authority, and then celebrity. As you go up the pyramid, the dollar signs get bigger.
Yep.
A generalist does not make as much as a specialist or as an expert
Right.
or as a celebrity. And it just keeps going up and up and up. And so some people, the people that usually buy Bentleys, Lambos, Mercedes, you know, Louis, Gucci, Prada, those people see themselves as the people that if I'm going to go to a doctor, a chiropractor, or a dentist, I'm going to pay for the specialist or the expert.
Yeah.
Just because that's who I am. My identity is associated with paying more. And so you target those individuals.
Yes.
Where for me, I'm like, I ain't paying $500 to get in Forbes. I
Yep.
pay $5,000
Yep.
because it's going to be better quality, faster, etc.
And it can be the same thing, but you'll just
It
have that
can be the same
perception.
thing, but just the perception. Like at the end of the day, I mean, obviously the quality is a little different, or
Right.
very different when you buy a nicer car or handbag or clothes, but it's all perception. It provides the same service.
Exactly.
You're getting in Forbes. You guys do a couple different things a little bit differently. I call it the stadium pitch. We've got an audience of entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, and they just are looking to kind of put the puzzle pieces together to figure out how to have the income and the impact that they want to have in the world. What do you feel like is some of the best advice that you've learned from mentors, from being in the space, from studying a lot, that you could share with the stadium, our audience?
Say it again. Say it.
It's just an audience of entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs who want to make more money and have a bigger impact. What's your advice?
Do the work. Like
you got to give them something better than that.
So,
they're gonna
okay,
hear
for
that
example,
and go,
I'll
"No,
give,
you're not
yeah,
better."
yeah,
They're gonna-
I'll give a good example.
Yeah.
Many people will be like, yeah, I want to be in Forbes, but they've never pitched.
Meaning they never tried to get in Forbes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I want to become great at this.
They always
But you've
wait.
never-
They're hoping and praying that if I become successful, Forbes will reach out to me. And it
yeah,
doesn't
that's not
happen.
true. Yeah. So that's basically like my advice. Just do the work.
Do the work and ask. At the end of the day, you have to ask, right?
Ask.
Because if you don't, we were just talking about that. You could do the work, and Forbes ain't going to reach out to you.
Oh yeah, yep.
Right?
Yeah.
You have to go for the ask. As we come to a wrap, I want to know what's a quote that you live by. I feel like if you're doing all these articles, I know you're hyperlinking quotes in there from people.
Yeah.
One of your favorite quotes.
And it's one that I made. It's a test focus. Because if I'm in any situation, like earlier I was a little nervous, if I tell myself it's a test focus, all right, it's testing me to see if I'm gonna rise up to the occasion and perform. You know, so that I tell myself that all the time.
Say it one more time for us.
It's a test focus.
I love that. Thanks for coming on the show with us, brother.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
I'm Mark Lack. This is Business Rockstars.
After this short break, more Business Rockstars. We are the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. Welcome to Business Rockstars. Right now, we're going to chat with Rana Lustian. She is the CEO and co-founder of Edible Cookie Dough. I'm already hungry. This sounds so good. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. I am a fellow dessert lover, so when I saw that I was chatting with you today, I was like, I hope she brings some. So the name, obviously, pretty self-explanatory, but please expand. What is Edible Cookie Dough?
Sure. So edible, as the name says, is edible dough, and it's cookie dough made without any eggs or chemical leaveners like baking soda or baking powder. So it's meant just for eating raw and not for baking.
So basically, it's a solution for what we all wanted to do growing up, and we did, but it wasn't good for us, and that is eating the cookie dough when we're baking.
Exactly. Yeah. I've always wanted it to be a dessert in and of itself. Like, I like to eat ice cream, but I like to eat ice cream with cookie dough. So now I get to kind of manage my cookie dough consumption.
So is that how it kind of came about? Is you were picking the cookie dough out of the ice cream and then had an aha moment?
Yeah. So there was actually a big food brand that recalled all of their cookie dough in 2009 because people were getting sick and they were hospitalized for either salmonella or E. coli. There were several outbreaks. And it turns out that everyone thinks it's the raw egg is a no-no, and it still is. But raw flour is also a culprit. And raw flour, because it grows from the ground, and we use manure on our crops, it can contain E. coli. So we use a specially thermally treated flour that's commercially treated and tested to ensure safety.
Wow, so you're combating that issue. It's completely safe and delicious, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So I love to talk to entrepreneurs about how they really put fuel behind that idea, because having the idea is just the beginning. The hardest part is getting started and really taking action. So what were some of those first action steps that you took?
Yeah, so at the time, actually, we were kind of forced to take action because we were in school and we had to write a business plan. And that, is usually what people typically want you to come up with is like, just do some research your industry, research your customers. Who are your customers? And start figuring that out. What's your product? What's your, mission statement? And it really forced us to kind of create the vision and then ultimately put it down into some sort of document. And then so that's what we did. That's how we started. We just kind of started researching. And of course, this is a new category in the dessert industry. There was no edible cookie dough, so you can't just pull up the report on edible cookie dough because it didn't exist. So we had to kind of figure out, well, who's eating this cookie dough? Clearly people are, because there was a big recall of it because people are eating it raw. So who are these people? And then trying to figure out, what is this market? And funny enough, initially we were going to do a full-on vegan, gluten-free, super healthy version of cookie dough. And for me, I kept eating it and thinking this just doesn't taste like cookie dough. And then for, professors, they're thinking business-wise, that's such a little market. You're already, the people who eat cookie dough, it's such a little market compared to people who eat ice cream or people who buy milk. So why are you going to limit it even further to these special dietary restrictions of vegan and gluten-free Obviously, being in LA, it seems like everybody's vegan and gluten-free, but that's not true for
outside of LA,
all of
outside of our
America.
bubble, yes.
Exactly. So we wanted to kind of create this this category where it's not just for special diets, it's an indulgence, and we had to learn to embrace that. So we launched with e-commerce. So that was kind of our way of, okay, like we can get a little bit of packaging together, we can get a logo, you know, we can put a sticker on a cup and scoop the cookie dough into a cup and see if anybody wants it.
We say it over and over again, but you got to come up with your minimum viable product. You just got to take it to market, because that's when you can start doing the testing. And I think so many entrepreneurs can relate to wanting to stick to their wheelhouse. You have a talent and passion for creating recipes, and all of a sudden as an entrepreneur, you have to do what's, you know, above and beyond your wheelhouse, and, you know, acquire all these new skills. And that's why I think taking action is the hardest part.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to take a short break, and we're going to talk about how do you market desserts. So sit tight. This is Business Rockstars. Now off air.
Anybody in the world right now, this is the best time in the world to live when it comes to being creative, when it comes to being an entrepreneur. If you look at this age, we talk about the industrial age, you talk about all of the ages that we studied in our school books. This age, man, you can grab it right out of the air and make things happen. If you look what's going on now with entrepreneurs now, I don't think there's ever been a time to see people grabbing their businesses and being successful in this time. They'll talk about this time for a long time.
The journey was leaving the music business in 2010, being a full-time dad, making sure that the foundation was okay. And I saw the transition from the music industry where you couldn't sell albums anymore. So when you couldn't sell albums anymore, for guys like me, it became not so beneficial.
What I say, great people can be great in any circumstance. So it's a natural process for him to see that working, him to do this, and there is no change other than we've grown up.
Yeah.
We understand that he understands the process now of how to build something.
My biggest strength is I am a listener. I am an advocate of research and information. My biggest weakness, I think, is I'm not stern enough.
My biggest strength is to recognize my weaknesses.
Whoa, that's powerful.
And I didn't get to that until my best friend from high school. He said, the minute we can uncomfortably look at ourselves and see the blemishes and realize what it is, and then be able to vocalize, to be able to say, okay, I'm not good at that.
Well, me, I'm a positive guy, man. I mean, 99% of the time I'm happy. You know, I'm an optimist. So, you know, I don't really look for bad news. I look for solutions to situations, so I don't really look at it as bad news.
We are the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. Welcome back to Business Rockstars, where we are continuing our conversation with Rana Lustian, CEO and co-founder of Edible Cookie Dough. Yes, Edible Cookie Dough. It's right here. I just tried it. It is amazing. You were telling me off camera that you sometimes get that surprising reaction of, wow, I can't believe it actually tastes like cookie dough, right?
Yeah, it's so funny to me because we'll demo at grocery stores like, you know, Whole Foods, and we're telling people that it's cookie dough and it's just for eating. And so they taste it and their first impression is, oh my God, it tastes like cookie dough. And I was like, it is cookie dough. You know, you don't taste the baking soda in the cookie dough or the raw egg in the cookie dough. This is all the delicious ingredients, but
the good stuff, all the stuff that you need,
but higher quality. Like because for us, like, we are 100% committed to quality. We take our product very seriously in terms of making sure that it's first and foremost, safe to eat, and secondly, highest quality ingredients. So everything's all natural, non-GMO, no preservatives, no emulsifiers.
So it's basically healthy.
It's like it's healthy. It's healthy for
That's
your
what I'm going to
soul.
tell myself. That's what I'm telling myself when I eat this whole thing.
Yeah.
No,
exactly.
I love this. You open it and it's got this little built-in spoon,
Yes.
which is genius.
That's our new packaging.
Yeah, and I mean, you can just tell that there was so much thought that went into this packaging. And with a product like this, packaging is a huge component of it. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, definitely. So when we first launched into wholesale, we kind of took our e-com branding and just kind of stuck a barcode on it and some nutrition facts and ingredients, and we were like, okay, we're ready for wholesale. And it was great because, again, like we were saying from the beginning, you have to start somewhere. How do we know if it's good unless we get it on a shelf somewhere? So we were able to do what was kind of within our reach and within our, at the time, within our wheelhouse, because it kind of became like, this is our brand, this is our logo, this is our packaging, and we translated it to a grocery store. So we had this packaging that had our logo on it. It says ready to eat cookie dough. And like, I don't even want to tell you what this stuff says because that's the point. The fact that I have to tell you is because it's just too small and teeny tiny. And we realized that this didn't have a shelf presence. And this is
the old one.
This is the old packaging.
Right,
yeah,
big,
so this is
edible with cursive.
And by old, I'm actually saying it's current. Like when you go to Whole Foods in California or Southern California, Orange County, this is what you will find on shelf.
Okay. But then you have this updated version.
Yeah, so we're launching this next week. And
Gotcha.
This has been over a year in the making in terms of design and new logo development and messaging and packaging and how do we really want this to look on shelf? Because you really have that one opportunity to go and scale your product in grocery. And this packaging, it wasn't cutting it for us.
When did you decide to come out with new flavors?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, actually. So online, we've got 12 different flavors, and they rotate seasonally. We have specialty flavors, like our vegans and our gluten-free flavors. We still had to keep those in the mix. But we launched our wholesale flavors for scale with our top 3 flavors that have been top 3 for the last 3 years online.
Yeah, and so tell me where you guys are now and kind of what the plan is moving forward.
Sure. So now we have an e-com business, a wholesale business, and a food service business. And all of them are growing. All of them are kind of creating their own little niche within this new category. And we are at the I'd say we're scratching the surface, really. We've just basically spent a year gearing up this new packaging, which is more than just new packaging, it's new branding. So everything from the branding of the packaging to a new website, new photography, everything's ready for scale so that we can hopefully get some big sales with some more conventional grocery stores and start being readily available for people in store. Aside from edible.com, which is where we currently ship nationwide.
So what's your strategy for getting into new retailers?
So there we're focused more, again, regionally, rather than either saying yes to every grocery customer or potential grocery customer across the United States that approaches us. We want to stay with cold chain. So basically from manufacturing until it's at a grocery store, it should be refrigerated throughout. So for that, we basically, we're focusing on a West Coast strategy because that's where we currently manufacture. So to ensure that the product is of utmost quality, we want to focus sales more regionally and really locally, but we're trying to grow beyond local and just be more West Coast.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for stopping by, sharing your insights, and best of all, sharing your edible cookie dough. So delicious. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You
bet.
Fun. Absolutely. This is Business Rockstars. Thanks for sharing the time with us, and we'll see you next time on Business Rockstars.